Today is the 6th of June, 2024, and my name is Kim Black. I'm an artist living in Kommetjie, Cape Town in South Africa, and I love to paint mostly botanicals, anything to do with flowers, and I do love to paint interiors too. Growing up, I always found art as a place to escape to. My parents died quite young, and art was a place where I could go where I was in a magical world, just focusing on something that was beautiful. And so I really loved to create something out of nothing. My biggest influences have been, we studied a lot of artists, obviously, when I went to art school. But one of my favorite artists of all time is Matisse. I absolutely adore the way that he was so brave in his color use and not so concerned with the structure of his work or painting, but more the feeling that he was trying to convey. So I really identify with that. And as an artist in this time, we are very fortunate, I think, because we have so many modern day artists to follow and to understand what their processes are. And I absolutely love some of the modern day artists, especially who also paint florals, but in quite a contemporary way. There's one called Carmelo Blandino, and I love the way that he is so free and bold with his brushstroke especially, but also never underestimating the effect of color. My biggest influence is definitely the natural world. So I absolutely adore florals, and I think because they hold such freedom within them, there's such exquisite detail, but at the same time there is an abundance of freedom to grow, freedom to be, and I adore that it's not that they're not geometric shapes, that they're such lovely flowing organic shapes. I have friends that are florists, and I've also got friends who are flower growers that actually have beautiful gardens, and that provides such a source of inspiration for me. I've taken so many photos over the years, and there's just so many ways in which to paint these so-called florals and gardens, and just experimenting with new ways and new uses of color. It's always such an inspiration to me. The work that I'm busy with right now is commission work. Most of my work is commission work. Clients will ask me to do specific things. I work with interior designers as well. So I always have that, which I absolutely love, because I love to know that my artwork will, where it's going and where it's going to land up and which interior it's going to feature in. So that for me is quite a special thing. A challenge for me right now as an artist, over the years, is I constantly obviously want to do better, but at the same time, I want to be able to experiment, and I feel play is a very important part of being an artist, because it's in that play time that sort of new ideas, come about. I can see things in new ways. I think I'm going into a little bit more of an abstracted phase where I'm abstracting images a little bit more, and just giving that life a new meaning within the painting. And I think it's it's even more freeing for me because there aren't specific guidelines to the subject matter, or there's a lot more freedom in the way I'm throwing my paint on my canvas. There's a recent work that I've just done where I've literally flicked most of the paint on because there's such thick, globules of paint that just have such intense color, I think, once they land on the canvas, and I don't want to mess with it. So I've really been enjoying that wildness of the painting for now. The advice I'd give to my younger self would be to keep persevering, which obviously I have done because I'm 54 now, but also not to be afraid of what others think and what others think you should be doing in your art practice, or what style, etc. At this stage of my life, I've really understood that the world is a very, very large place, and there are so many different people that like a million different things. So it really is up to me as the artist to put what's burning in my heart, to put that down the way I want to put it down onto the canvas. And that's the right way, because in being authentic like that and being myself, it's something I can, it's got longevity. I can keep with it. I can keep going back to it. It's something that ignites me. So I think that's definitely, to have too many voices in your head. It's great to be inspired, and obviously we're influenced as artists for sure. But to absolutely hone in on the reason why I, as an artist, want to do what I do, because we all have a different voice. We all maybe want to say a different thing through our paintings. So for me, I've really understood, and I would tell my younger self that I really need to understand what I want to do first of all, and do it with wild abandon and confidence. I always feel it's good to keep experimenting, and I once found that when people visited my studio, they'd be so intrigued by my paint palette where I was mixing all my colors, because they'd dried and they'd gone all hard and textured, and people would run their fingers over them and they'd be really so intrigued by it. So I started to take sort of palette boards, wooden boards, and I started to use those to mix my paint on when I was doing a larger painting, so that at the end, when I had these palette boards that were, caked with thick, juicy paints that had dried, and then I used them to sort of bring out the shape of a vase of flowers in a contemporary way. And I called this my Pots of Paint series, which really did extremely well. And even when people used to come into my studio or at an exhibition, I would, in an art sort of gallery, that you don't touch an artwork, but I would put up a sign saying, please touch the artwork, because I just felt it was so necessary that people got to touch this thing because they wanted to. So I really just gave them permission. And I think the thing is, there's still so much more to explore. I don't know. In technique, I've been experimenting with new ways. I've really started applying paint in a lot more thicker way as well when I've started painting, because it just seems to free me up, and I love the intensity of the color as well. And then when I go to my studio, it's such an incredibly quiet beautiful place where I know it's just going to be me and my work. But I absolutely love music. So I would say most days I put some music on. I've got a very varied playlist, and it really depends on my mood. So maybe I'm in the mood for some fun 80s or some calming sort of moody blues or classical. And then other times, if I really do feel like I just need to be inspired, then I listen to some podcasts, which are fabulous. I love listening to The Jealous Curator. She's on Instagram. And I also, I love to hear, because she interviews other artists, and I love to hear the way other artists think, even if they have a completely different process, or they've got a different way of working, or maybe they're not even a painter. But as a creative, I think we all go through certain ways of approaching things or thought processes. So, and it's really interesting to hear how people have come from, a place of always a little bit of unsurety, or they felt, not worthy in their practice. But the wanting to do the thing, the wanting to do the creative practice is just burned so much brighter than fear that, we just have to do it. And I think that's an incredible thing as an artist. Over the years, I've had such a wonderful feedback from people and wonderful reactions to my artwork. And that is such an encouraging thing, because when I was younger, I used to joke a lot saying, I just paint flowers, because, I always felt there's such a lot of serious artists out there who have such incredible conceptualized ideas, and I felt a little bit sort of, it was just quite basic what I was doing, and maybe quite superficial looking. But the reaction to my work, because I think as an artist, when we show that we have really we felt such wonder about the thing that we're painting, and because nature is incredibly bigger than me. And I think when I also looked into that and asked myself questions, I realized that's why I love to paint so large, because I love to explain and express that this artwork is way bigger than me. And people's reactions to that I've even had, people get tears in their eyes, or they've sensed that freedom and that wonder and that beauty. And that for me is absolute gold, because that is exactly what I'm trying to express. And if somebody can feel that when they're looking at my work, that's an absolute, that is the gem in it all. And then I feel as if, I've done my job. A recent story is a lady contacted me via the UK, and she said she was coming to South Africa. She said she's been following me for a while, and she's coming to Cape Town. And she's coming to Cape Town to meet her biological family. And she said, please, she would love to come and pop into my studio. And I said, yes, that would be lovely. And she came along with a cousin of hers from South Africa that she'd only met now on this trip, because she was meeting her family. And they were both standing in my studio, admiring my work. And the cousin also happened to follow me and had actually even purchased an artwork. But I just thought to myself right then in that moment, that we were chatting, and that there was something so special between these women, because they just found each other. And I just thought, art as well is such a connective thing. It's, it encourages conversation, it encourages people to think differently or to explore, new ideas, which is a very encouraging thing when you hear people actually say it, to you. And I've also had, I also tell people that as well, with the wonderful thing about an artwork on a wall, is that a wall is just literally by itself, it's a dead end. It's a dead space. And once you've popped an artwork on a wall, it's another portal. It takes you to another place. And so I really hope that for my work, that when people walk past an artwork of mine, that it really brings life to that room, that it really brings them, it really lifts them for the day. And I think that is just, a wonderful thing. The work that I'm preparing for at the moment, besides commission work, is there's going to be an exhibition towards the end of the year. Well, actually, it's at the end of November, beginning of December. And it's in the seaside town where I live, the seaside village called Kommetjie. And it's a group of Kommetjie artists. We all have different practices. So there's printmakers, ceramicists, painters, sculptors, mixed media artists. And we put on a thing called Open Studios Kommetjie, where maps are drawn out with all of our addresses on, and people come to Kommetjie from all over South Africa, actually, come to Kommetjie, and they get to go to the different artist studios. And I love to invite people into my studio at that time of the year, because I think there's something wonderful about a gallery, a clean space, beautiful. But I think about the special thing about a home studio is that's where the artist that's where I have created the works. So my floor is completely splattered with paint, completely. And my works are all around, and they feel sort of all encompassing. It's like walking into a garden. That's what I want people to feel. And I love all the senses. So I'll put on beautiful music. I'll put on a lovely smelling candle, which really sort of messed with people's heads, because when they walked in last year, they would smell this beautiful sort of rose smell, and they would be like, oh yes, that makes sense because of all the flowers, but obviously they're painting. So, but it's the whole immersive experience, I think, which I love. And also with social media, I mostly never get to meet clients of mine, especially if they come from outside of Cape Town, or Cape Town's a large place, or even further away in Cape Town. So for me to actually meet people and put a face to a name, or just for people to explain. Sometimes people tell me they followed me for a while and they remember when I did this, things I've even forgotten about. And it's really a special time to connect, and it's very inspiring, and it's very, very, it really helps the artist, I think. It really encourages me for sure, to know that, what I'm doing is not in vain. Because in a studio setup, it's solitary. I'm by myself. So when I'm meeting all these people, it's a wonderful experience to tell them why I'm doing what I'm doing, and to have that amazing feedback. So I really think I'm very, very grateful to be an artist. I'm grateful to that younger self of mine for persevering, even when I thought maybe I'm not going to make it as an artist, or maybe it's too much of a difficult thing. So I'm really, really grateful that I get to do, every day I get to do what I love, and there is no time limit on it. And I get to experiment and change as well as an artist. And that for me is just amazing.